Hello everyone, I'm Dantiko and welcome to the initial release of the SWTOR Loadout Builder App. This video will guide you through the installation process as well as show off how to actually use the app in its current state. To start off, we'll go ahead and install the app. The link in the description of the video will take you to a direct download of the installer for the app on GitHub. I have it here in my downloads folder. So once the installer.exe file is downloaded, we'll go ahead and open it. A quick disclaimer about the app is that I currently do not have a code sign key attached to the executable, so Windows will always pop up this warning about an unverified publisher upon trying to open it. You can safely ignore this warning by hitting more info and run anyway. It will then pop up a user account control window that warns you about the file making changes to your computer. This is just like any other app that you would install. Just hit yes. So once the installer is open, it will prompt you to choose a location for the install location for the app. It defaults to your main drive, program files x86, and then the default program directory for the app. You can hit browse here and change anything that you would like and install it anywhere you want. Then you'll hit next. The next part of the installer will tell you that it can create a desktop icon. So we're going to go ahead and do that and then hit next. And then you'll see the review screen to review all changes and settings for the install. And once you've confirmed everything looks good, you can go ahead and hit install, and it will install the app. The last screen on the install wizard here allows you to run the app right away if you want by having this check mark. We'll go ahead and do that, and then you can hit finish, and it will load up the app here. So now I'm going to show you around the app and the current features as they stand now. So you'll see on the left pane an option to select a class and a discipline for your build, as well as save, load, and clear loadout buttons. And then at the top, a reset class spec button as well. We'll get to the save and the load buttons later. They will not really function properly until we have other selections inside of the app. So don't you can't hit the save button. The load button will function, but again, we'll get to that later. The clear loadout button will reset all of the class and spec selections as well as the gear selections that you have. The reset class spec button just resets the class and the spec selections that you have. So the middle pane is where all of the fun happens with the app here. At the top of the pane, you will see a clear gear selection button that will reset all gear selections if you've made any. You can do this if you wish. You can also reset each gear slot individually if you want. So on here, you can individually select gear pieces for each slot. Clicking a slot will open drop-downs for options for that piece, starting with the item rating. So the item ratings start off at 324 and go all the way up to 344 for normal pieces. The implant slots will start off at 326 and only go up to 340 as reflected in the game. So after selecting an item rating, more drop-down buttons will appear for that particular slot. You can now choose a tertiary stat associated with that particular slot. Main hands will only have crit and shield as valid options. since that is the current state of things with non-moddable gear. That's how I've modeled this around, is non-moddable pieces. And the same thing for the offhand slot. It only will show Alacrity and Absorb as valid options for the tertiary stat. Implant slots will show crit, Alacrity, Shield, and Absorb, but do not have an accuracy option because we do not have an accuracy option for legendaries. Wrist and belt slots will either have a DPS or a tank option, since they do not have tertiary stats associated with them. So selecting the DPS option will be the belt or the wrist with power, and the tank one will be the one with defense. Relic slots have an option for tertiary stat after selection here for the item rating, but that's only necessary if you're running a shield matrix or avoidance relic for raw tank stats. There's currently no support for activation relics or any distinction between proc relics, but I'll get to more on that later. The main hand and offhand slots will also have a drop down for crystal selection, so you can choose any of the crystals. And then all of the slots will have an augment drop down at the very end. The augment selection will have options for augments all the way from the blue 296s all the way up to the new 318 golds. So after hitting done on a slot, you will see that slot reflected item rating for the piece itself, and the augment selection below that in parentheses in text. And then you will also see color-coded inlays and borders and little boxes. The inlay color is the tertiary stat associated with the piece. The border of the piece is the secondary stat. So in this case, it is power, since we have a crit tertiary stat. And then the augment selection will be shown as a little box in the bottom right-hand corner of the slot if there is an augment in the piece. If we were to, say, remove the augment slot here, you would no longer see that box. And then same thing for the crystal selection for the main hand, offhand. They will appear in the top left-hand corner of the screen here. And if we were to remove the crystal, then you wouldn't see that anymore. So after selecting your class and discipline, which I actually have not done yet, we'll do this as an example. Once you're satisfied with your gear selections, you'll see on the right pane the totals and the details. The totals have all of the names of the stats, and they're color coded. So all of the stats that you see in your, or all the colors that you see in the gear selections part, will be reflected exactly as the colors on the names for the stats here in the totals. There's also a totals note that tells you what is included and excluded from the totals here. Most of this is just the fact that you have all the datacrons, and you have class buffs, and there's no relic procs included, there's no guild buffs, etc. But you can see more of that in the totals notes. The details below the totals will show you percentages based on the class and spec selections as well as gear selections. So if you were to change this to say Carnage, you would get an extra 3% alacrity from it being Carnage. And other specs follow the same rules, so different tank specs will have different shield and absorb chances. However, if you do have shield or absorb stats in your gear slots, but you do not have a offhand that is absorb, then you will not see the shield chance and shield absorb percentages go up because that's the way that it is reflected in the game. If you don't have a shield generator, then shield and absorb doesn't function. There's also a percentage notes here that tells you what is included and what is excluded from the percentage calculations. Most of this is pretty much just saying that it is base values, so any abilities that buff alacrity in combat, or defense chance, or shield or absorb, or anything, those are not included in the percentage calculations. It's just the base for that particular class or spec. The only exclusion to this is the fact that I went ahead and threw in the extra 5% alacrity for Lightning Sork, because that is something that you gain just passively anyway, and that's what a lot of people build their lightning builds around. So once you are happy with your loadout, you can navigate back to the left pane and hit the save loadout function. This will bring up the save options for the loadout. So if you haven't created a character to associate your loadout with, you'll need to create one with the new character button. So we'll go ahead and do that here. And hit create. It'll appear up here in this dropdown. You can select this, and if you have previously made characters, it'll be a dropdown where you can select whatever character you want. We only have one character here made in the example video, like I said, so you will not see this as a list, but it will actually list all of your characters that you've made if you have any more. There's also a manage characters button here on the right, and if you open this, it allows you to see a list of your made characters, create a new one if you want, rename any current character that you have to whatever you want, or delete the character entirely. Please note that when you do delete a character, it also deletes all of the loadouts associated with this character. So if you have any other saved loadouts that are associated with this character, it will delete all of them upon deleting the character itself. The next thing is going to be a loadout name, so we'll do Carnage, example, loadouts. And that is the name for the loadouts. And then you will see the optional notes entry here as well. And this is something that will allow you to add any extra notes about the loadout that you want, telling you exactly what it is. But it is optional. You don't have to put in notes for this to function. Just a character and a name, and then you will be able to hit save. But we'll go ahead and put, this is an example note. And then below the notes option, it will show you an exact preview of how this loadout will look inside of the load loadout function that we'll get to in a minute. So this is exactly how it will appear in the list. So you can preview what that looks like for your reference later. And then you can go ahead and hit save. So the load loadout screen will show any saved loadouts that you have currently in a list down here. And then above that, you will see the filters. So you can filter this by character by selecting any of the characters that you've made. You can sort it by spec. So any specs that you have made loadouts for will appear in this discipline filter here. Or you can directly search it by name. So if I had other loadouts, you'd be able to see this a little bit better, but I only have this one loadout saved. You can clear out any of these filters at any time by just resetting it back to all, or you can hit the clear filters button and it will reset all of the filters that you have. There's also the manage characters selection here on the right of character. For the filters, this is the same screen as what the manage characters is in the save function. Allows you to rename or delete characters. If you delete the character, it'll pop up a warning here saying that it will delete all of the loadouts associated with the character if you delete the character itself. So once you find the loadout that you want in this list, you can click it and it will instantly bring it up into the main UI here. There's also an edit, duplicate, export, and delete function on each loadout within the list. The edit button allows you to edit the name. It allows you to set a new character that it's associated with, and it allows you to change any of the notes that you have for that loadout, and it'll save that and update the list. The duplicate function allows you to duplicate the loadout exactly as it is. So all of the character, the spec selection, all of the gear selections, everything about this is duplicated exactly. But you can rename it to whatever you want. So Carnage duplicate example, and you can hit create copy, and it will create that exactly as it was before. You can also edit this later to associate it with a new character and change the notes as well. The export function allows you to export the loadouts into a JSON file, which allows you to share this loadout with friends that also have the app. So you can put this anywhere you'd like on your PC, and it will save it as a JSON file that the app can read, and then will load that loadout into their list. The delete loadouts, or the delete function here, allows you to, of course, individually delete the loadout itself without messing with the character. It just deletes the loadout for them. And then at the bottom of the screen, you will see the import loadout as well. When you click this, you are prompted to select the character that the loadout is associated with. And if you want it to be a different character, then you can create a new character. And that character will appear in the drop-down as well. So once you have a character selected, you can go ahead and hit import and select any JSON file that you have created from your exports or somebody else has given you from their exports, and then hit open, and it will put that loadout in your loadout list here. And then once again, you can edit that and you can change anything about that. One bug about that right now is if I were to export this and then import it to Dantiko instead of Dantiko here, importing that shows the character name as unknown until you hit edit and then change it back to the character. Or it should. Yeah, this is a bug right now. When you create a new character, in the import, it shows the character name as unknown instead of the actual character name. So that is a bug that I'm currently trying to work on fixing, but it's not something that I feel is super important about the initial release here of the app. So I'm sorry that that doesn't exactly function the way that you want. Actually, if you open the that's a fix for you. If you do open the manage characters button, it updates the actual character list. This is the actual character list, and so when it's in this drop down, it doesn't register properly, but it does if you open the manage character button. So there you go. If you do run into that import problem, just open the manage characters button and it will update to the proper name rather than unknown. Like I said, trying to work out the bugs with that, but that's how the import function works. So I currently don't have video feed for this, but if an update to the app does roll out and you are connected to the internet, then you will have a dialog appear on the main screen here when you open the app that prompts you to install the new update through a new installer that is downloaded after you hit the download button on the pop-up. It will detect that you already have the app installed and then update any relevant things after closing what you have currently open. So when a new update for the app rolls around, as long as you're connected to the internet, you should get updates for this at any time. So thank you all for watching the video here. I hope that I've explained all of the functions of the app as well as it can be. um, and obviously, this is a very preliminary release and doesn't have all of the features that I eventually want to incorporate into the app. But if there are things that you run into issues with, or you have any other ideas to add for features or different changes to different things, the way that they work, please let me know in the comments below, or go ahead and DM me on Discord at Dantiko. And yeah, happy loadout building. Thanks everybody for watching.